Yes, I am just using this as an excuse to talk about myself. Hi, welcome, come on in. My name is Aoife and today you are watching my 100th video on this channel. So in celebration of that, I decided to do a little Q&A, put a call out on my Twitter and on my Instagram, and now we're going to take a look at what some of the questions that have come in are. So all of these 4 questions came from Pages with Paige. What is one of your main life aspirations? I want to get fluent in German. I have been living in Germany for 3 years. It's going to be 4 years in June. And one of my biggest goals is to be fluent in German. I am pretty strong with German. I can speak it pretty well, but stuff like the grammar does trip me up a little bit, and I want to be able to have more fluid conversations and to be able to write a bit more fluently without making huge mistakes. Who are 3 people you admire? Michelle Obama, my mom, and I can't think of a third person. What do you enjoy cooking? So this one came up twice. I love making lasagna. So it's one of my favorite dishes to eat, but it's also one of my favorite dishes to make. I make it completely from scratch, except for the pasta. I just buy store-bought pasta noodles. But I make the bolognese sauce from scratch and I make the bechamel sauce from scratch. And there's a lot of work that goes into it, I'm not going to lie. It takes about 2 hours completely door to door to have it all ready. But it is so worth it. A trick that I learned from Ed Gamble, I can't remember what podcast, I think it was on the Off Menu podcast, is to take it out of the oven and then leave it for like 10 or 15 minutes just to like settle a little bit more. I started doing that this year and it has upped my lasagna game significantly. Are books 50%, 100% or 200% of your personality? That's about 200%. I don't enjoy anything else. Books are the main things that I do. Kate from Kate Loves Colour asked, what are some of your favourite TV shows? I love Friends, Gilmore Girls, Schitt's Creek, Derry Girls, MasterChef Australia, just specifically the Australian version, Wanted Down Under, Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Is there anything else? Community. I'm watching that at the moment and I like it. I don't think it's my favorite program, but I do enjoy it. What are your go-to genres and genres that you don't seem to pick up? My go-tos are contemporary romance, contemporary YA fiction, thrillers. I enjoy thrillers from time to time. I like non-fiction. There are a couple of non-fiction books that I've read recently and really enjoyed. Things that I don't tend to go for, we're talking sci-fi, fantasy. I am not a fantasy reader at all. I have tried fantasy book like 3 or 4 times and it's just not my thing at all. Kate's last question was an all-time favorite books. That's probably the most difficult question you could ask any bookworm. So I'm gonna go with my top 3, which is Matilda by Roald Dahl, The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak, and The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Anna from Read to Me at Midnight asked, what is your favorite comfort TV show or movie? I have discussed some of my favorite TV shows already, but I think if I'm looking for comfort, it's going to be Friends or Gilmore Girls. I just love the atmosphere of like coming together, families, friends coming together to like eat, discuss their day, and just generally like chill out together. If you could meet one author, who would it be? Lindsay Kelk. I absolutely love everything that I have ever read of hers, and I think she is the author that I want to meet the most. If you ever wrote a book, what would the genre be? I think it would probably be a contemporary romance. I have got some ideas for books like kind of swimming around in my head, but I haven't put anything specifically down. I haven't written like anything out. But I think if I was going to write something, it would very likely be a contemporary romance because people generally say write what you know, and I know quite a lot about contemporary romance. Karis from Karis's Corner asked, do you have a favorite German word? I don't know if I have one specific German word that's my favorite, but there are a couple that I really like. So I like the idea of Mahlzeit, which is like a greeting that you give to people around noon, 2 o'clock, between then. And it generally just means mealtime. But the response to it, if somebody says it to you when you're in like the canteen or if in a cafe and somebody meets you and they say Mahlzeit, the correct response to this, which I did not believe, but it is just Mahlzeit. You're not supposed to say hello back. You're not supposed to say anything else. You just say Mahlzeit. Another German word that I really enjoy is Feierabend, which directly translates as celebration evening, but it's just the concept of finishing work. Who doesn't like finishing work for the day? Is there a book that you wish you could read again for the first time? Several. I really would love to be able to go back and read The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo completely anew. I know what comes now because I've read it already. I know what comes now. I know what happens. But I would love to be able to go back and completely read it afresh and just be spellbound by it again. What is one place that you want to visit when visiting places is allowed again? So we're going to take my parents' house out of the equation because that's just a given. I would really, really love to go to Croatia. I have seen a lot of people that I know in my personal life have gone to Croatia and really, really loved it. I feel like that kind of seaside area, by the beach, sunshine, but there's also quite a lot of exploration that you can do. That's the kind of holiday that I'm looking for, and I'm definitely going to enjoy myself when I get there. Emma from Bookworm Girl 24 asked, if you had to choose only one author to read for the rest of your life, who would you pick? Lindsay Kelk. Again. What is your go-to reading snack? I am a chocolate fiend. I really love chocolate, and I'm really lucky to live in Germany where the choice and the quality of chocolate that you can get is just amazing. So you have Milka, you have Lindor, Rittersport is also here, and there's also like some of even the own brand in supermarkets is actually pretty good. What place would you always recommend to anyone visiting Germany? So, okay, I haven't really been to a whole lot of Germany. So the area of Germany that I live in is referred to as the Ruhrpott, and I've been to quite a few of the cities there. I have been to an interview in Berlin, but I haven't actually been around it a lot. I've been to a couple of cities in the north of Germany, but nothing like spectacularly well known. And I also did an exchange in Heidelberg when I was about 17. I think I would recommend Heidelberg as a place to visit, but because I haven't been there in so long, I don't know how good my recommendation would be because it's been over 10 years since I've been there. I don't really remember a lot of what's happened. When it comes to places that I have been to recently, I'm always going to say Dusseldorf. If we want to go for a big day out in one of the local cities, we would always go to Dusseldorf. Spend quite a lot of time around the Königsallee, which is the main shopping street in Dusseldorf, and it's full of like really expensive brands. But also there's a huge Mayische Buchhandlung, which is the German bookshop chain here. It's one of the bookshop chains in Germany. And I have been known to spend up to 2 hours in the Mayische Buchhandlung just looking around. We also have this restaurant that we really like to go to in, I think, the Shadow Arcade. We never know which shopping centre it is. I think it's the Shadow Arcade, which is right by the Mayische Buchhandlung. So I like to kind of work up an appetite by shopping around and having a look at what the books are and then heading straight for that restaurant, which is kind of like a barbecue place, and they do one of the best pulled pork burgers I've eaten in my entire life. If we're talking about Christmas markets, which Germany is specifically well known for, I would always recommend the Essen Christmas market, which is about 15 minutes away from where I live on the train, and I go there every single year when the markets are on, obviously, without fail. It is my absolute favorite of the Christmas markets around here, even though the Christmas market in Dortmund is really well known because it has the world's biggest Christmas tree. I think it's made up of like 2,000 or so spruce firs just all joined together. Münster is also really, really pretty. It's about an hour away from where I live. The streets are quite narrow and cobbled there, but also Münster has like a really big cycling feel to it. Quite a lot of people in Münster will travel around by bike. So those are some of the places in Germany that I would recommend to, of the places that I've been to. Lily from Literary Lily asked, now that you've moved to Germany, would you move to any other countries for a while? So Germany is not the first country that I have moved away to. I also lived in Wales for a year. I did my master's there, but I think I've always kind of had an idea to move abroad. And if it hadn't been Germany, I think it would have either been Canada or Australia. Those are always like the big, everybody in Ireland goes abroad to Canada or Australia, but I think it's one of the two places I would have gone to. What is your biggest reading pet peeve? Ooh, do we have time for this conversation? I am a big romance reader, and I think a lot of people who watch my channel will know that, but I cannot stand, and I mean genuinely cannot stand, the way that people look down on the romance genre. So it's always seen as the guilty pleasure reading, and it's always seen as the reading for people who don't need to think about what they're reading. It's just the brainless reading that you can pick it up and flick through it. When quite a lot of the romance that I have read has also had some really deep things about it. For example, A Perfect Paris Christmas that I just read last year by Mandy Baggett features a character who has had a kidney transplant after an operation. We have The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, which is a romance book of sorts, and it features LGBT issues and parental death and death itself. I mean, there are so many different levels to romance reading that people who brush it aside are absolutely missing out on. What surprised you most about moving to a new country? I'm going to tell you what surprised me most about moving to Germany, and it's something that I did not know before I moved here, and something that I should have known before I moved here. Shops in Germany are closed on Sundays. So if you are in town on a Sunday and you just want to go and browse H&M or whatever, that's not a possibility because every shop is closed. Supermarkets are also closed. There are like little kiosks around the area that are generally open and just have stuff like soft drinks, chocolate. They might have like a very small selection of groceries like milk or cheese or cream or whatever you might be missing out on. Sometimes we have had to go to the supermarket at the train station and just get whatever we've needed, but it's much more expensive to go there, and that's a very much last resort kind of thing for us. So that is definitely something that I wish I had known before coming to Germany, is that the country just basically shuts down on a Sunday. Is there a book you regret reading? Yes. I've said it several times, but if I could go back and unread a book, it would be The Friend Zone by Abby Jimenez. It is an absolute slap in the face for people who have infertility issues. I'm just going to leave it there because I think if I speak any more about that book, I'm just going to go into a rant. Cora from Tea Party Princess asked, would you survive in the world of the last book you read? The last book that I read... What was the last book that I read? So I'm going to check my reading journal for what was the last book that I read. It was... And the last book I finished was The Roommate by Rosie Danan. There's nothing in that book that I don't think I would have survived. Like, it's not your kind of fantasy where there's a huge war raging or anything like that. There's probably just coronavirus, and I'm surviving through that so far. Ish. Cora also asked, tea or coffee while reading, and how do you take it? I kind of switch it up a bit. So sometimes I will drink tea. Sometimes I will drink coffee. Sometimes I will just drink water. Sometimes I will drink like a fruit squash. If I'm taking tea, I take it medium strength, no sugar, and a good drip of milk. If I'm having a coffee, it is a latte macchiato with vanilla syrup and one little sweetener dot. Sylvie from the TBR Diaries asked, what is your favorite breakfast food? And I am very basic in this instance, but I really, really love avocado toast. I make it every single Saturday, and sometimes I change up the toppings. Sometimes I will have it with like a poached egg, or sometimes I will have it with mushrooms. If it's in the middle of the week, there's a company here in Germany called My Muesli, and I get their strawberry cheesecake one, and I have it with like a vanilla yogurt. What video are you most proud of? I don't know if I can be the most proud of a video that not a lot of people have watched and that flopped in terms of how I thought it would go. But I put a lot of work and a lot of effort and a lot of research into my reading around the United States video, where I basically just calculated how many states of the US have I read a book from. And that is definitely something that I want to do with other aspects. So I want to see if I can read my way around Asia, read my way around Europe, read my way around Australia, that kind of a thing. If you could have a book that disappointed you, rewritten by a favorite author, what or who would you pick? So one of my favorite authors is Lindsay Kelk. I've mentioned her several times. I think I would have her rewrite The Friend Zone, but I don't know how I would have her rewrite it. I think I would have her completely take out the last part. I think I would have her make maybe more of a blended family. For example, Kristen and Josh could adopt a child or foster or something that didn't result in a natural pregnancy for a woman who is suffering with infertility issues. Shannon from 155 Books asked, if you could have your dream job with the click of your fingers, what would that dream job be? I would love to work in books. I really would. And I don't know what area. I think I would like to work in the editorial department or the social media department because I do have experience in those fields. If you could have a dinner party with 3 book characters, who would they be and why? Evelyn Hugo, because I want to hear her life story. Angela Clark from the I Heart series, because I genuinely think we would get on really well. We seem to have quite similar tastes. For my last spot, I'm kind of torn between Matilda Wormwood and Lara Jean Covey-Song. So I'm going to cheat and have Lara Jean help me out in the kitchen and have Matilda be one of the guests. And then Lara Jean can just pull up a chair. Victoria from What Victoria Read asked, which book have you hated the most since you joined Booktube? I don't remember exactly when I read it, but definitely The Friend Zone was a disappointment and a half for me. Of the books that made my disappointments in 2020 list, we're probably looking the most at Red, White and Royal Blue, mainly because it was so highly anticipated and I really, really wanted that one to go well with me. Lena, I really, really hope I'm pronouncing your name right, because I know what it's like to have a name that's like completely traditional for your culture and then you bring it abroad and people have no idea what you're saying. But I'm gonna hope that it's Lena, and if it's not, correct me. Asked me, what is your favorite season and why? Autumn. I love an autumn. I love cardigan weather. I love when it's not too hot, not too cold. Sometimes it's rainy and that's okay because you can sit in with a book and a tea. Summer isn't my thing because sometimes it's way too hot, and winter isn't my thing because sometimes it's way too cold. So autumn it is. What is your favorite thing about living in Germany? I feel really weird saying the fan system, but the fan system. So basically, if you get a bottle of water or anything, there's like a little... I'll get a bottle. So I'm back and I have prompts. This is just a bottle of 7-Up that I finished this morning. On the label, there's like this little sticker here. And you pay an extra 25 cents when you actually buy the bottle. But when you bring it to the machines in supermarkets for sure, sometimes like train station shops will also have it. This little sticker, you put it in the machine and it will read this. You get your 25 cents back for every bottle. It's kind of the thing in Germany to save them up and go at the weekend or go at the end of the month, depending on how often you buy them. And then you can buy new bottles with your fund, or what you can do is what I'm doing and save it all up for... I don't know what I'm going to use it for, but I am trying to save up all of my fund money for this year and then blow it on something at the end of the year. What is a book by a German author that you want to read? I have got quite a lot of translated books on my shelf, but I also have this. So this is Momo by Michael Ende, and as proof, it is written in German. I have never read the English translation of this one, so that is what's going to make it different to any of the other German books that are on my shelf. And I got this as a Christmas present from the tall man maybe 2 Christmases ago, and I still haven't read it because I'm scared. Sam from Griff Reads asked, what is your favorite and least favorite book that you have read because of Booktube? There are a couple of books that Booktube has kind of influenced me to read, because I'm very easily swayed. I will admit now to everybody that I got a sampler of The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue about November or December time last year. That would have been the first V.E. Schwab book or Victoria Schwab book that I would ever have read. And I said, look, there's no point in buying it and thinking you're going to love it and then not loving it. So I got this sampler and I said, if I really love it, that could be your final purchase for 2020 and also my final book purchase before going on a book buying ban. And then I read the sampler and I really did not gel with it at all. Like, it was just not my kind of thing. So I think, having done the research, unfortunately V.E. Schwab is not the author for me. As for a book that I have read and loved because of Booktube, I think definitely The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I didn't have a channel at the time that I read it, but it had been spoken about so much that I just couldn't not read it. Picked it up. When I was reading it, I was on holiday in Vienna by myself, which was good because I kind of shut myself into a cafe, not Cafe Sache because I'm not made of money, but I shot myself into a cafe for like 3 or so hours and just finished that. I think I spent like €15 on coffee, but it was so worth it. Charlotte from Coinia Reads asked the important questions. Shrove Tuesday, what is on your pancakes? Nutella. I grew up in a very traditional sugar and lemon syrup household, but I have kind of expanded my flavors a bit. On that same holiday that I was in Vienna, I was also in Budapest on Pancake Tuesday and instantly went Googling what are some pancake houses in Budapest, and there turned out to be one like I don't know, 5-10 minutes walk away from the Airbnb that I was staying in, and I got a giant pancake with icing sugar, Nutella, strawberries and raspberries on it, and it was divine. I think I ate that at maybe 10 o'clock in the morning, and I was still full at 4. It was huge, and it was so good. I want to go back there actually. What would be your perfect birthday cake? Red velvet cake. I really love a red velvet cake with a vanilla buttercream icing. What is your favorite thing on your Christmas dinner plate? Stuffing. I could genuinely eat my parents out of house and home just of stuffing alone. There is, however, one year that we did stuff the turkey and we did make stuffing, but nobody noticed that it wasn't on the plates. And that is still something that lives on in my family lore. What is your go-to takeaway order? It depends on where I'm getting a takeaway from. So, if we're getting Chinese, I will have a 3-in-1, which is boiled rice, chips, and usually curry sauce, but I asked for satay. And I will have chicken balls with satay sauce on the side. If we're getting chippers, I will have a chicken burger with no onions, large chips, and curry dip. If we're having McDonald's, I will please have a 12 box of nuggets with medium fries and a Coke Zero. And sometimes, if I'm feeling generous, I will also have a hot fudge sundae for dessert. What else can we get? If we're getting a pizza, I will have... It's kind of like a meat eater's one. It's got salami, ham, bacon, mushroom, and tomato bits. I think it was called the New Yorker in Domino's Ireland. What other takeaways do we get? If we're having an Indian, I'm going to have a korma or a tikka. I can't think of any other takeaways that I would generally get, but that's what we're going for. Shara from Thoroughly Enjoy Books asked, what is a book that would follow you from Ireland to wherever you live in the world? And that is always The Book Thief. Actually, the first book that I ever bought when I moved to Germany was Die Bücherdieben, which is the copy of The Book Thief, but in German. And I still have not actually read that. 4 years later. What book would you like to be able to read in German? Let's go with Die Bücherdieben. I would actually genuinely like to be able to read Die Bücherdieben, especially because I spent so much money on it. But I also have quite a lot of books that are translated from English into German, such as the Lara Jean series, or such as OMG Diese Aschling, which came out from a February TBR. Still haven't read that. But if I can get to even this, I'm happy. What book played like a movie in your head when you read it? Oh, I do this all the time. This happens all the time. I can visually picture so many books. I think actually the one that I'm reading right now, which is Christmas Island by Natalie Norman, that is playing out pretty visually in my head and I can see everything that's happening. Claire from Claire K. Wild asked, first literary icon. Her. Still an icon, by the way. 30-ish years later. What book series would you love to be a fly on the wall for if it was a real life story? Definitely The Princess Diaries. I absolutely want to physically see what Mia Thermopolis is like as the ruler of a small European country. Who is the main character you relate to the most? Mia Thermopolis, because we're both complete disaster human beings, or Angela Clark, because we have both left our home country and then discovered partners while we were away. What is a food from a book that you would love to try? Again, a shout out to Christmas Island by Natalie Norman. But that has some Norwegian recipes in the book, which I felt was missing from Summer Island. But it has got a couple of Norwegian recipes, and I am absolutely going to try out some of those. And so the Instagram questions. Lafaria asked, pizza or pasta? That's probably the most difficult question on this list. I think it's going to be pizza. Because if I'm out in an Italian restaurant, it's generally pizza I would order. Can you tell us a bit more about emigrating to Germany? Okay, so I moved to Germany in 2017 for a job that I no longer work at, but have been here now for coming up 4 years. Things that I probably didn't expect from moving to Germany is that it's not as organized as it makes itself out to be. Everything is very bureaucratic. Everything is very done in German. For example, on TV, everything is dubbed and nothing is subtitled, which kind of does also have an impact on people's levels of English when they're outside of school. The cost of living here is a lot cheaper than it would be back in Ireland. I live alone here, for example, and I don't think I would have the option to do that if I was back at home. Everything is in German, and if you don't speak German very clearly, or if you don't speak German very well, that can be very difficult to kind of get to terms with. Jenny from Jenny Books Art asked, what are you currently reading? I am, as I've mentioned about 6 times now, currently reading Christmas Island by Natalie Norman. And I know it's February and it's not Christmas time, but it is also very heavily snowing, and there's about a foot of snow outside my apartment building, so it is definitely appropriate to read a book about Christmas right now. There's a little Q&A to get to know a bit more about me. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe because I have new videos up every week. Now, get on out of here.